This week on the OneCast, we're going to talk about changes to the Bassmaster Opens and EQs.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Oh, God, it's a toad, son. It's a toad, dude.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's going to be a bad day.
What is going on, OneCast fans? Welcome back to the OneCast, episode 92, I think.
92, yeah.
It's 90-something. Excited. We're coming to 100. It's cool. If you're listening right now, I'm going to say it real quick. I'm going to put a post up. This drops at noon. At 1 p.m. today, I'm going to put a post up on our Instagram that is going to show a photo of somewhere that we support. And if you are the first one to comment with the name of that place, I'm going to get you a voucher for a free oil change, hint, from that place. So make sure you check out our socials. If you're not, we're the OneCast on Instagram. Facebook is the OneCast community. We also have just the OneCast on there, but we don't really ever post on there. So make sure you check that out. While you're checking that out, Trey, where else can they go?
They need to head on over to CarolinaWatersNC.com and use the code TheOneCast. Pick yourself up all that UPF apparel they have to offer, from gloves to neck buffs to awesome UPF shirts. They got the Buck Stopper shirt that's out right now. It's hunting season, even though it's 5 million degrees with, I don't know, it's so humid right now. It's, I mean, it's not too bad in here. But go check our partners out, man. They've been supporting us for a long time now. I love their apparel. Ben's got one of the OG hats on. Pete's rocking one of ours. I'm also rocking a Heroes Harvest hat. We'll get into that in a minute. But yeah, man, Carolina Waters, local company here supporting all the outdoors folks. CarolinaWatersNC.com. Use the code TheOneCast. Where else can they go, Ben?
Well, they also need to go over to OneCastFishing.com. Use the code TheOneCast. Get stocked up on those weedless neds, the long neck hooks, soft plastic, snagless jigs as you get out ready to go do some fall fishing.
That's right.
You also got to remember, protect your eyes. So use the link in our descriptions or on our link tree, which is posted on all our socials. I post it from time to time when we do posts about it. But Hobie Eyewear, supporter of the show, make some great sunglasses, floating frames. They've got the new Snook frame out, which just won some awards. I'm really looking forward to getting a pair of those and trying them out. So make sure you check them out. HobieEyewear.com is the website if you want to pay full price. If you don't, then use our links. Click on those and you'll save, I think it's 15%.
Yeah.
So it takes those glasses down. You get to end up with a $100 some pair of glasses for about $83. So free shipping, lifetime warranty, great customer service. So make sure you check them out. Hobie Eyewear, and our newest partner.
Yeah. Deep Dive. So you need to go to the Play Store of your specific carrier. So I'm an Android nerd.
So that's an app store.
Or yeah,
everyone else. Sophisticated folks out there.
Or an app store for all you other folks. Yeah, download the Deep Dive app, man. You know, we love you guys hitting us up and asking us questions about, you know, where do I need to start? What baits do I need to throw? Obviously, we're going to tell you don't put that Nighthawk down from OneCast Fishing. But besides that, you can help yourself out by going to your app/Play Store, downloading the Deep Dive app. Get that pro version. You're going to pay about $80 a year for it, but that has all the different features, from water clarity to wind blown points to discharge locations to tournament winning tournament patterns, all sorts of stuff like that. It's a great way to really just pick apart a body of water or pick a starting point. We used it in the 2024 season for the Fishers and Men. We had a lot of success with it, and that was before we even developed a relationship with the folks over at Deep Dive. They're a great crew, man. Small outfit, putting out a really good product for all you folks that are looking to get into the fishing world or who are already in it. So download that. Also, I do want to throw this out there. Going back to Hobie, this will air before the Field and Stream Music Festival, which is on October 6th, or 4th, 5th, and 6th in Winnsboro, South Carolina. If you want to get your hands on the glasses and look at the demonstrations that they're going to have, they're going to have all the series down there. They got a pond, I think, on the east side of the I was going to say compound, on the east side of the location, where they're going to give demonstrations of the floating frames and all the different lenses that they have, from the Sight Masters to the copper green, whatever they are. We have all of them because they're amazing sunglasses. But if you want to check them out in person, Field and Stream Music Festival, October 4th through the 6th, Winnsboro, South Carolina. Get yourself some tickets right now.
Sweet.
Yeah, make sure you check that out. Make sure you check out all those nonprofits we always talk about: Heroes Harvest, Take Warrior Fishing, Special Operations Bass Anglers. That tournament. There's 2 events coming up. One for with Take Warrior Fishing, one for SOBA. So make sure you check them out. Yeah, lots of stuff going on in bass fishing for the off season. The NPFL had to cancel stop number 5 in Florida. Unfortunately, what is going to be Hurricane Helen or Helene, however you say it, is about to smash into them. Now predictions are saying category 4 when it makes landfall, so it's going to be a pretty significant storm.
Yeah, so if you're listening to us in Florida right now, that means that means you got power, or at least your power came back on. But we'll go ahead and say it early. Prayers out to everyone.
Yeah.
I saw today, right now, like this is the 5th largest storm, like width wise, in the Gulf in like the last 3 decades. So
it's a
gonna be
giant
tremendous effects out there.
We're about the latest prediction. We're like 400 miles from storm center, and we're going to get 2 to 6 inches of rain, just depending on the track.
We don't need it because we've had so much.
I know we're getting more.
If the storm would bypass and not hit everybody and we just got rain, I would rather have that happen. But Ben, you're absolutely right. The humidity levels in North Carolina have been so drastic this year. We did a full retrograde of my house last weekend. We had condensation in the flex tubing in the house. If you don't run dehumidifiers, and it's something that I never really even did. I mean, I guess maybe as a kid we had them up in Michigan because at that time it didn't get that crazy. But man, I put dehumidifiers in my house, and almost to the point where it's like hurting my throat now. Like I think I need to put some moisture back in the air. But that's a very important thing. And I know it's not a fishing topic. It's definitely a health related thing. If you're in these areas like Florida all the way, well, heck, it's even happening in the north now. Mildew and mold in your air system can really cause some serious respiratory damage and stuff like that. So I know after we gutted the house out and then put everything back in to include new furniture, washed all of our clothes, cleaned everything. Dude, I haven't sneezed in the morning. My wife hasn't had any sort of sinus issues or anything like that. And so just take care of your house. And I'll tell you, if you get hit by that hurricane, and we hope you guys don't, but you're definitely going to get hit down in Florida. It takes a village, man. Like neighbors help each other out, stock up on water, batteries, all those things that you need for just basic survival things.
For the next one.
Yeah, especially for the next one, right?
This one should hopefully be, you should be back, trying to get back to normal.
And if you're looking to try to get I know DeSantis, he declared a state of emergency. You guys can go on the FEMA website. You can request assistance through the Federal Emergency Management Association, I think agency association, whatever it is. But just understand that's a federal government, dude. So it's going to take some time. So take care of your neighbors. You know what I mean? Hopefully the National Guard plays a role and helps everyone out too.
Yeah. So that, like we said, when this airs, that's about it's been a week since y'all got hit. So hopefully you're pulling through and things are getting back to some kind of normal. But
well, I mean, you guys brought up the NPFL canceling the event, right? A lot of opinions from people on the internet about canceling that. I'm sure people are like, why are you canceling it? Or you're going to have another event.
It was one of those.
Everything I've seen, they supported it, but they wanted another event.
It was early on when they first announced it. There was a couple like, what are you guys doing? They didn't realize how high the river already was. Yeah. And they didn't realize the effects that this storm's going to have. Sure. And even if it went a little farther west, like they were predicting initially, maybe hit whether Panhandle or maybe Louisiana, Alabama. The problem is travel getting out of Florida. That's right. And as you move up, could be very bad. Yeah. So it was a smart decision all the way around. Safety first, 100%. It's too bad for the anglers, but they do have one more event left. Yep. And it's about 3 weeks. Yeah. A couple weeks away. So. Yeah, I know some of the anglers, are already heading. I think they're cut off by the time everyone's listening to this. I think the following Sunday or the upcoming Sunday is the cutoff period for Lake of the Ozarks. So I know some of the guys have traveled up to Lake of the Ozarks just to
kind of break down that body of water, do some recon and stuff. I think there's a Toyota Series event or something like that that's going on up there. So there's going to be a lot of pressure on the lake, but it's, listen, like this is it's a free market gambling society. So if somebody's out there fishing a tournament on the lake,
just a random fact here. Apparently on the Missouri election this year on the ballot is a proposition to put a casino on Lake of the Ozarks.
oh wow, we're literally living the TV series now.
I think they tried that a couple years ago down at Table Rock, and I'm pretty sure it
Are they
failed.
going to call it the Missouri Bell?
I don't know.
You're the dude that gets that license. You pretty much have to at this point.
But so they're up there doing some recon. They're not the only ones that canceled tournaments. Obviously, I think
I just want to circle real quick back because I know you're going to talk about some other leagues, but they're kind of the biggest one that did. So with them canceling, a lot of folks are saying, why don't you go to a different lake? Why don't you reschedule? If you're making those comments, you clearly have zero idea about the logistics to go into a $100,000 tournament with 100+ boaters, and it's just not something you can throw together. And they're like, you got a whole month. Well, it's pretty hard to pull a venue, permits, sponsors, relocate, all of this stuff in a week or two to be able to throw a derby together.
I mean, the events, getting the events scheduled. I mean, we plan these events
a year plus in advance sometimes. And with St. John's being as high as it already was and now going higher, even if they could just go back to where they were, that river is going to be in rough shape. Ooh. So it's not really an option. So what you talk about coughing now, it's like, I can't stop. But it's really not possible for them to do that. But the other ones that canceled. Yeah. So Major League Fishing, I don't know what series, while Pete's back there coughing up along. Our buddy Mike Johns was supposed to fish Okeechobee. I think it's Toyota. Yeah, I think it's Toyota. But anyways, fish Okeechobee with the chances of moving up in the Angler of the Year points to fish the championship on Santee Cooper, which happens October 10th, 11th, and 12th, if I'm not mistaken. So that does that both for the MPFL and for some of the MLF guys. That puts them in a spot, right? Like if they don't have that makeup tournament, then wherever you're sitting in Angler of the Year, and we talked about with Seth Ellis, like he's sitting, I think, somewhere in the mid 40s like or something. 44th, I think. Yeah, I mean, he's got one event left, Lake of the Ozarks, to do really well at in order to qualify for the 2025 MPFL NAF 2024 championship. 2024 championship held in 2025. Yep. So man, I mean, it just sucks, but it is what it is, and can't sacrifice safety, Jump Master. You know what I mean? So, but I mean, that's pretty much everything that I can think of. What else is going on in the tournament world?
Well, there's some big news that just, dropped.
So,
it's another year.
Yeah.
Changes all around, right? We've already talked about some of the changes regarding forward-facing sonar. Of course, the MPFL has banned it for next year.
Yep.
Bassmaster, I mean, they put some regulations in place, but essentially it's going to be guys are going to fish the same way.
Yep.
And then with the MLF, the changes were forward-facing sonar can only be used in one period, and you have to declare that beforehand. So it'd be an interesting strategy involved. So we've seen those changes already, but now there has been a change to the qualification system for Bassmaster. And so Bassmaster dropped today the press release. There's a good article on their website basically describing how the EQ series and the Bassmaster Opens are going to move forward. So I guess it's best to just for those who are not familiar, just to brief overview what those changes are. So this year, or the last 2 years really, if you wanted to qualify for the Bassmaster Elite, you had to enter the EQ, so the elite qualifying portion of the Bassmaster Opens, which means you had to fish all 9 Bassmaster Opens, and then roughly the top 10 in points would qualify. The top 9 in points would qualify for the Bassmaster Elite. So they're going away with that system, and now it's slightly different. So next year there will be 8 Bassmaster Open events. Now there'll be 2 divisions and 4 events for each division. If you just elect to fish it as a potential elite qualifier, that means you have to fish all 4 in your division. The top 50 from each division will then qualify to move on to the elite qualifier series, the EQ series, which is 3 additional events between September and November.
Yeah.
And then the top 10 out of those and points out of those 3 events would then qualify for the Bassmaster Elite. So that's just a broad overview right now. The details that we know from the press release and the article, and I think there's a lot more details we can go in because there's been some conversation, obviously, online that we've all seen and we've all talked about amongst ourselves.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know how you want to go. Do you want to talk about? Do you like it? Not like it? Thoughts, pros, cons?
Yeah, I mean, I'll give my, so, you know, I really liked you got to look at it from multiple perspectives, I think, in order to make a well-informed opinion. You can have an opinion right off the bat, right? So initially when they made the first change from the division way to fishing all 9, I think their biggest reason was two big reasons was to get the most qualified people and the most conditioned people to move on to the Elite Series that knew how to logistically plan, get the sponsorship dollars, whatever, right? Because in the past, they were having guys that would qualify from the divisions and then they would do 2 years and then they would just continue to get cut or they file bankruptcy, whatever, right? I was all about the new change for 2024. I thought it was a really good change because of those things that were said. On the flip side of that, there was a lot of people that were against it because it took the quote unquote working man's ability away from qualifying for elites. It didn't take the working man's ability away to qualify for the classic, though, if they were to win one and then fish 3 in that division. So that stayed the same. With the new rules going into the 2025 season, I think from the Elite Series anglers perspective, it's great. And I know they were huge advocates for it. I think Seth Feider was really big on leading this charge because he was against what they did last year. So for the Elite Series anglers, it gives them more opportunities to qualify for the Classic if they don't make it. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I didn't mention that in the overview. So for the EQ portion of the series, so it's again the top 50 from each division from the opens. So it's 100. That's 100 anglers.
Yep.
Plus the second and third place finisher in Bass Nation.
Mm-hmm.
So that's 102 potential anglers right there. And Pete's right. No co-anglers in the EQ series. The co-anglers are only available for the 8 open events. And then the press release has that all current Elite Series anglers have the opportunity to jump in the EQ series. Now, there's a couple of reasons why you might want to do that. If you're one of the anglers who are going to be cut, you can now get in the EQ series and potentially requalify. And then the winner of each one of those events, just like in the Bassmaster Open now, and then of course what it's going to be next year for those 8 events, the winner will be an automatic berth in the Bassmaster Classic.
Mm-hmm.
So you now have 11 total potential Classic berths coming from the Open EQ system. And then so those anglers, those elite anglers who have not qualified for the Bassmaster Classic, because each year it's automatically the top 40 typically who finish in AOI qualify for the Classic. And then you have a couple requalifiers. The last year's champions always automatically in. So depending on where they finish. So typically between 44 and 46 elite anglers qualify for the Classic. I think this year it's sitting at 44. Jacob is the last one in because of the last Easton, Fothergill 1-2 Open. So that allowed
Carl Jacobson.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So he was able to qualify because Easton double qualified by winning 2 Opens this year. So going back to you can continue. It's an opportunity for those elite anglers to requalify or another opportunity for the Open.
So I won't take a whole lot of time. I'll provide my opinions from 3 different perspectives. From the Elite Series angler perspective, my opinion would be this is great, right? This is great for me. From the business perspective, I think it was a really smart business move on Bass to do this, right? We talked about it before the show. We're talking like some gains in revenue, right?
Yeah, I went to the back of the napkin math, and we can get into it later, but it allows them.
They're going to make more money.
They're going to make more money, right? Yep. Feeder system. We all see it with all the leagues out there, or a lot of the leagues out there. And then from the fan perspective, I think it's great too, because you're going to, so there's 4 perspectives. Sorry. So from the fan perspective, I think it's great too. We don't know what the coverage is going to be yet. But from the fan perspective, now you got the EQs fishing in the fall. That's kind of cool, which we talked about it before. Like, hey, bring the classic back to the fall time, whatever. So we're getting some fall fishing out of BASS, which is neat. And we see that a lot with the MPFL with their schedule. From the anglers that are starting in the divisions to work themselves to the EQs, this is where my opinion differs, I think, from your guys's, or whatever. Just my opinion. I think those who fish, and there's probably going to be people that fish both divisions in order to have a better chance at qualifying for the 3 EQ tournaments. I'm not so sure that I like the fact that those who are going to get cut from the elites automatically can go into the EQs. From their perspective, I would think that they're potentially taking some chances away from me when they objectively didn't meet the Angler of the Year points to requalify for the elites. Why should they be given a buffer zone and not have to fish their way back up? Some would say, hey, they are fishing their way back up through the EQs. Some would say, no, fish all 8 or fish all 4, requalify through your division to qualify for the EQs and work your way back into it. So there's probably going to be some heartache with that. My opinion is it's an individual business decision, so they can do whatever they want to do. I think if it works, it works. But if I was fishing, which I'm not by any means, if I was fishing it, even though I want to compete against the best, don't get me wrong. When I look at them, I'm like, you got cut. You don't deserve to be here, necessarily speaking, right? You got cut. You don't, and that's just the way I would look at it. Now, no emotional connection to it whatsoever. A straight points decision or opinion on that one.
Yeah, so I want to ask you before I give my opinion one thing. You don't agree with those 10 being there, right? Or however many that come down would be cut. Yeah. So do the guys that finish second, third in nations not deserve that opportunity as well? Because you can qualify through Bassmaster Nations and finish second or third by finishing good in 2 derbies, 2 tournaments, and you can get there. So do they not deserve a shot?
Well, that's how they get there.
Yeah.
It's through the Bass Nation.
So I got there by fishing the EQs. I got there by fishing the elites.
So yeah, so the Bass,
you're saying.
The Bass
So
Nation folks,
to
the
me,
winner
automatically goes to the elites. Second and third get a chance to fish those 3 to try to qualify. So do they?
Sure.
So should they not get that shot because they didn't do the 8 tournament grind? I could literally go out, fish a regional, do well, fish a national championship, finish second, and have a shot to go to the elites.
So that's entering into it, right? I think once you're in it and you're cut from it, then you should have to start back over just like everybody that's starting, right? I guess my question is if you're there and you had a couple, say we could play theory on all of it, but if you just sucked for 2 years and you got cut, why do you deserve to be in the EQs more than 10, let's just say 10, right? 10 of the other guys that could have been.
Why do they deserve to be there more than I do?
Well, because they started from the bottom.
So did I to get there the first time. Why do I not deserve a shot to get right back? Why do I have to go grind again after I may have spent 15 years grinding to get there and just had a bad season? One bad season out of your 2 and you can be gone. It's not 2 bad years.
But one bad season out of the EQ or out of the opens and the EQs, and you're not even going to get there.
Yeah, but it could take 15 years of me attempting to have one good season to get there. Do I deserve to be there any more than the guy that was there already? So this is where I'm going. Like, I love it for everybody, because for me personally, if I'm going and I finish in that top 50 and I get to go, I have no problem with those dudes coming down trying to requalify, because if in my head that's taking my spot away, I've already failed in qualifying. I already don't belong there. I don't have the mental fortitude to compete, because if just 10 dudes, it's kind of like the people that blame the loss of an NFL game on one flag. If one penalty is what cost you that game, you weren't in the game.
And it's so if 10
dudes coming down and competing for their job. And here's the other reason I just thought about this, why I think this is good. If you look at any other sport, and bass is competing for non-endemic dollars, right? In every other sport, if I'm a veteran or I've been to the top, well, not every sport, because baseball, they still send guys down to the minors, but let's use football. If I've been a good quarterback, I have a couple bad years, they draft a young rookie, I still have training camp to go out there and prove that I should be a starter. I should be that first guy in the NFL.
You do have a training camp. It's called Fish the Opens.
I'm fishing the EQs, the same thing. That's a three tournament training camp where I get to prove that I still belong at the top of bass fishing. I've already ground my way there. I've already gone through the gauntlet. It could be 10, 15. Some of these guys, it takes 15 plus years of fishing opens to try to qualify, right? I've done that. Now all Bass is doing is providing me 3 tournaments to make up for, to give me an opportunity to stay. I've already proven that I belong there. If you make it, you've proven that you belong
for 2 years. Yeah. For 2 years.
So but you also, I believe, have earned the right to have an opportunity to compete to keep your job.
Think of it this way.
But that's me. I see what you're saying.
I lean towards Pete on this, because think of it this way. Bassmaster is trying to get the 100 or 102 best anglers that's coming through their system to compete. The top performers, right? Because they want the best product on the Elite Series. So the guys who are being dropped, it could be they've maybe been there for 3 years. They could be there for 15 years. You know, it just depends on their points and how many drops and where they're sitting at lifetime average. But the Elite Series are supposedly the best of the best. And the guys coming up to compete are trying to get there. And basically when the guys are getting cut, they're borderline. So what if all 10 go down and it's not going to happen, but all 10 are the ones who requalify. Well, then you still got the 100 best people.
Sure.
And so like they're really, and that would show there actually is a huge competition level difference.
Does that counter the narrative of, you know, the dream piece, right? Everyone talks about the, you know, quote unquote dream.
I don't think so, because if they cut 10 dudes, if they have 100 guys and they cut 10, that means there's 89 still there. As one of those 10 guys coming in, I've still got 89 dudes that belong there that I have to beat. If I can't beat the bottom 10 dudes out of those 89, I probably don't belong at that next level yet. And this is only 3 derbies we're talking about. Now, I would have a bigger issue if it was them being able to come down and fish all 9 or something, because that gives you a lot more time. 3 derbies in the fall, which is tough to fish to begin with, is really going to put everybody's skills to the test. And if you want to get to that level where you're going to be fishing against dudes during the spawn, pre-spawn, post-spawn, when fish are chewing, and let's be honest, they don't plan Elite Series events to be super tough fishing on their guys, right? If I can't compete against the bottom 10% of the guys in the elites, the bottom 10 dudes who, for lack of a better term, you say didn't belong there outside of those 2 years, I'm probably not going to fare too well in the best time of the year against the top 80%.
But we might not know. That's why I'm saying.
And I see what you're saying.
From their perspective, that's like if I get fired from my job and I get moved to, and I apply for another job with another company, and they see that I got fired from my last job, they're like, hold on a minute. They could absolutely say, you know, we're going to start you off here above all these other people, even though you got fired from that job.
Well, it happens all the time.
It happens all the time.
Happens all the time. Or we're going to be like, you're going to work your way up from the bottom because your performance was not stellar, maybe where you were at. And so you're going to work your way up. There's definitely multiple approaches from the Elite Series anglers. Heck yeah, dude. If I'm fishing the elites, I'm like, heck yeah, I have a safety net. Maybe. Right.
I don't think it is, because I still have to compete against 102 dudes.
Sure.
That are, or females, 102 anglers.
Yep.
That are ready to go to the next level. Maybe. Like I think 50 is too many. I'm being honest. 50 from each division. I think that was nothing but a money grab. So, I think 25 would have been a better pick from each.
Yeah.
Just because I don't have to be that great of an angler, and I'm not taking anything away from it, but you don't know how many he's going to fish in North or South Division. So to be in the 50th, if 60 dudes finish, you have a pretty good shot of being in the 50th percentile, right? Like,
and that, that's a great point.
So now you're taking how many EQs this year? Was 100 and there was like 103.
I don't remember the number
like that. So now split those into 2 divisions. So there's your 50. They fished all 9 this year. You have 50 and 50. You'll grab a few more of the people who now are your working man that now I have a shot, because we were talking earlier. If I'm 2 and 4 in my division and I've finished 90th out of 100 in those 2, I'm probably not going to fish the last 2. Like, I'm going to save my money and go, we'll give her a go again next year. Right. Yeah. Like, I'm not going to make up those spots.
And with that, like, keeping the dream alive, right? It actually keeps the dream alive better, because
from a financial perspective.
Well, no,
there's no way to do it with finance.
No, from a points perspective too, because after 4 events, right, you're sitting 38th out of 50, right? On the old system,
you have to continue to fish.
You have no chance whatsoever.
Right.
If you're sitting that low after the completion of that season, because it's only the top 9 in the EQs that have been qualifying.
Yeah.
So now you could be someone who, is way down on that list. Now you just got 3 events.
Mm-hmm.
You got 3 events. If you perform well, those averages finishes that you did in the opens, you can still make it. And so I think it will contribute people fishing more, not dropping out of the opens, because it gives them a huge chance.
Yeah.
Because it resets everything.
So how many are typically cut from the elites every single year?
It's been 9, but there's really no set number. Bass can do as many or as few as they want. They have a magic number that they try to stay around that 100. Some years they decide they want to be at 90. And that, like the year Destin and Harvey and a bunch of those other guys got cut. They were inside the normal cut line, and then they were like, "Oh, we only want 90 this year," so they took extra people.
Mm-hmm.
So now at least they're kind of settling on 10 coming in. So I think it's safe to assume they're going to probably cut 10 and stay around that 102, because they're still going to have the 2 legends exceptions if they have enough legends to invite that have points that want to continue to fish. But so typically, so there could be more though. Like they could
be.
So this is where maybe a little bit more to your point, but still I think, like, I'm going to use Destin and them as a prime example. Like Bass just decided we're going to cut additional dudes, right? Like,
how
you
many
did enough to where
17 or something.
It was almost 20. Yeah, because they were up to like 114 or 15 people fishing it. So they cut a pot.
I see where you're going with this.
So like, I did what I had to do to deserve to be there. The organization was like, "Oh, we're going to cut extra people this year." And now I'm out. Now I've got to grind all the way, even though technically, if you look at history, I should be there, right?
Sure.
Now at least I have an opportunity to go out there and fish for my job that the organization decided wasn't there anymore. And I appreciate, like, you're trying to compare it to, like, if I get fired from one job, I can go to another company, but it's hard to compare that, like, regular business to bass fishing.
Oh, it is. I mean,
like,
Milliken came out. He's pretty adamant about, like, dude, we're 1099 employees of the company, right? They can cut us at any time they want to. They can get rid of it, right? If there's too much overhead, they make business decisions. But
here's the biggest miss in all of this is they keep trying to sell this dream, and they're not being real about it. And that is the biggest miss by every organization. I'm not going to say the NPFL. I think because I know that Paul and Brad and the rest of the ownership, when they're interviewing anglers to come in, they are pretty straightforward. Like, look, if you're going to put this on a credit card, don't come fish with us.
Yeah. Like,
you need to be squared away at home, have your finances in order, and be able to do this and not put everything on credit.
Yeah.
So Bass and them do not do that. They're like, "Oh yeah, you can, this is your dream. You can do it. You can go $35,000 in debt just trying to get here. And then if you can't find a title sponsor that's going to pay you can pay us another 40 next year." And you see dudes, Jamie Hartman, great guy, hammer, literally sold everything he owned and lived in his truck to chase the dream to fish into the elites. Like, that was the only way he could finance it. Like, good for him. You got to really want something. That's not okay with me. John Cruz, when he was on, talked about knowing somebody that twice sold everything, refinanced, filed for bankruptcy, and then 3 years later was back with a new boat chasing it again. Like, because they sell that dream.
You're right. I think this is a good balance Bass is trying to strike this year now, because No, when they opened up the EQs and you had to fish all 9, $2,000 a tournament, that's $18,000 right there.
Just for entry fees.
Just for entry fees. Now, entry fees are going to remain the same. So if you have that dream,
Well, 500 more if you get that, because it's 10-5 plus 8 for the 4, right?
well, no, entry
For
fees
last
per
year.
tournament
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
for the
opens.
for the opens are the same. So one, you don't have to fish. You can only fish 4.
So
and,
$8
and you
grand.
can make it. That's $8,000 instead of 18,000.
Yeah.
Right.
And if you choose to fish the other division, I mean that's a personal, business decision on your own, but it's a lot cheaper.
Yeah.
And so then if you qualify out of that,
It's another 10-5 you'd have to
it's
pay.
another 10-5. You
So
got to
you'd be at 18.
you got to come up with. So it ends up being about the same, but you have a better chance all the way through. And then 2, I think Bass kept it that way. 1, they increased the entry fees because, about a month or 2 later, if you do qualify for the elites, you got to drop a big check.
Yeah.
So you got to have.
That's one thing to me that is that I don't know about. Like, I love that they're gonna fall fish, but November, now you qualify. Deposits are due in December. Like, you have 30 days to figure out where you're gonna get this first $15,000 deposit from.
So there are balance in it. So folks financially, theoretically could qualify or take less risk initially to try to chase that dream. But they set it up on the back end, like, you better have your stuff in order.
Yeah.
But they don't tell anybody that.
Because that's why they did the whole EQ thing to begin with, to make sure people had their stuff in order.
If you haven't been around to know like when deposits and stuff are due, like, go back and listen to Matty Wong.
Yeah.
Like, he won in November and had no idea that he was gonna have to come up with like 15 grand in a month
Yeah.
to be able to pay the initial deposit for his first elite season. They don't tell people that. Like, big stage, big bass, big dreams, great. Big debt, loss of family, having to quit
That's not
halfway
funny.
through. Like, it is funny because
Well,
I mean, a lot of people were putting themselves.
I
in-
know. I laughed, and then you said loss of family, and I was like, oh, it's not funny.
Oh no, yeah, that part's not fun. Like, but I guarantee you, it's cost people relationships. Like,
Oh yeah.
and I'm not comparing it to armed forces and especially special operations where dudes are deployed all the time, like not home. But if
You're
you're
not
out doing
home.
this and you have no money, like,
Yeah.
you're not home. Eventually, there's a chance that things are going to go awry, right? Like,
Yeah.
they just, I don't feel like Bass, and I'm not like critical on Bass a lot. But this is one thing that I feel people need to talk about more, and we've tried to bring it to the forefront with Destin and them, folks talking about it. But like, they do not set realistic expectations. It's dream, and we all have that dream. But they don't ever show you the reality of what it actually takes to make that dream come true.
Yeah.
And that's criticism they got, and that's why they went to the EQs, and now they've kind of backed it off a little bit and try to strike a balance. So hopefully,
I just hope they do a better job. Like, and I'm going to use the NFL again, is because I think they're flawed as well. But one thing they require in the NFL when these rookies get drafted is they have to go through these financial classes where they teach, like, a lot of those kids that got drafted never had $1. Like, there's a lot of very, very not well off people that make it to the league, right? Like,
it's changing now, though.
it is, but they're
NIL.
still taking those kids and teaching. Well, and right, so now they're getting the money earlier, but still, those kids typically when they go to college don't have anything.
Yeah.
Like, if they didn't get a scholarship and weren't good ball players, they weren't going to go to college.
Mhm.
Now, like, the NFL is teaching, like, okay, look, you got $1 million coming this year. Don't do all this dumb stuff.
Mhm.
Like, you've got to be smart about it. You've never had money. You can't just go out and buy everything. This is why you need to finance stuff. You have to have credit. Bass and doing, like, they're just like, oh yeah, you made it. Give me 50 grand so you can fish next year. And now you got to go find $100,000 boat, and you got to have at least, I don't know, 10,000 in electronics. You got to have 10,000 in rods. You got to have 10,000 reels. You got to have 10,000 in line. You need to have all these different baits for all these different lakes. You got to have fuel. You got to have a truck to pull your boat. You got to have somewhere to stay when you're at these tournaments. So you either need a camper, an air mattress, a friend, something. Like, none of that is talked about.
So I don't want to be super critical of any of these independent leagues, because when you walk into a casino in Las Vegas, you're not going to get those classes either. All right. They're going to have the gambling hotline right there for you because it becomes an addiction. And that's where this kind of stuff is different, because they don't really owe you much of anything.
No.
Right. They're giving you a platform to go spend your money with the chance of winning some money. and some titles and things like that. But because this is such a hybrid sport / whatever you want to call it, it's really hard to expect anything out of any of these leagues. You talked about the MPFL. They're in a position where they can get a little bit more personal with it because they do a screening process, right? But dude, like, this is a giant money making machine. I don't know how much money they make.
I mean, Bass is making money.
Yeah, Bass is making money. But, you know, this, I think we had an angler on, I can't remember who it was. It might have been Destin or somebody that was like, dude, one of the best pieces of advice they could give anybody that wants to chase the dream of this is get a freaking certified accountant that looks at everything from a numbers perspective, because it's a lot of data that goes into chasing the said dream, a lot of money that goes into it, moving money around, opening LLCs, writing things off, all sorts of things that you're right. Bass isn't, none of these organizations are really going to give you a financial planning course.
No,
you know,
I'm not saying they need to give you financial planning.
No. Yeah.
What they need to do is be more open about the actual cost to do all this stuff.
I mean,
because
like on a flyer, like here's a flyer.
Here's a rough breakdown of what it's going to cost you your rookie season. On the
Mom,
because you look at these high school kids, they have no idea.
So
Zero. They don't understand money because they've never had to deal with. They might see their parents struggle. They're doing everything they can for the most part to let these kids fish, right? But they don't, and they see these pros running around these rat boats, and they get a new one every year, and they think that shit, for lack of a better term, is just handed to them.
Yeah,
and it's not.
So here's the problem with some of that is that, yeah, just the average, you know, person wanting to chase the dream. Okay, yeah, there's probably some naivety involved, but if you're actually tournament fishing from the BFL level up, you know how expensive. I mean, you guys have told me. You guys won a bunch of tournaments and stuff this year, the Fishers of Men, but
we didn't win any tournament.
Zero.
Well, Angler of the Year.
No, but
we won
well.
But yeah, you're at a loss. You're at a loss every time.
And so anyone who's in club fishing knows that.
Yeah.
You know, if you win your club tournament, maybe you break even.
You're right, but you're not right, because everybody has it in their head that when they make it to the elites, everybody's just going to start handing them stuff, and they don't educate people that that's not the truth.
Yeah.
They do not let anybody know at any level. I mean, Seth Fighter talked about the first time he qualified. He thought the sponsors were going to come calling, and his phone never rang.
Yeah.
It never rang. He had no idea. He fished club tournaments. He understood the financial investment, but he thought he was going to get some support because, hey, I made it to the top level. Like, this is the pinnacle of bass fishing. They're going to come calling, and he heard cricket.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
They don't do a good job of letting you know that just because you make it does not mean that you're going to get everything that you need. You're still going to have the money to put out. You're still going to have to, somebody's not going to come running with 40 grand to pay your entry fees to just hand you for nothing. Like, and that I guess to your point, like, yes, we have an understanding of what it would typically cost, but unless you've been around and talked to guys, you're going to live under that assumption. Even coming up through like the nations or the BFLs, a lot of those dudes in the BFLs have no idea that if they make it to the BPT or even the invitationals, that nobody's going to come running to give them money.
Yeah.
Like, and there's just this thought in your head that once you get to that level, and, you know, we bust Seth balls, for lack of a better term, all the time. Like, oh, just you get your sponsor. Like, but he's talked about the struggle of getting people to pay. Like,
100%.
Everybody just assumes you get to the professional level, and these sponsors are just sitting there waiting with a checkbook to get the new young gun that's coming up.
I think guys qualify in kind of those one-offs, right? Bass Nation, maybe some of the BFL stuff. But like, if you've been fishing the Opens or the Invitational Series for years, there's some personal responsibility involved.
Sure, 100%.
So yeah, I mean, situation of individual. So
but what I'm getting at is I think the kids have unrealistic expectations from the beginning, and that's really, I mean, we changed the way cigarette manufacturers are allowed to advertise and alcohol and all of that, because it was very clear they were pandering it to people to spend money.
I think
on unhealthy fishing's an unhealthy habit. I don't care who you are. Tournament fishing is an unhealthy habit. It's not though. They knew exactly what they were doing in advertising.
I mean,
and if you're telling me that Bass, Major League Fishing, these other tournament organizations don't know what they're doing, telling you big bass, big sage, big dreams, and who they're trying to attract the money from,
preach the dream.
You can't tell me that it's not these kids that are spending mommy and daddy's money right now.
I mean,
And I don't mean that in a derogatory way. Like, parents, absolutely, if you can support your kids doing what they love, you should.
yeah, I'm not.
But
paying
they
for
don't
myself.
understand. Like, they just don't have the real world understanding. And you're right. Once they might, and even in college, they'll start to see it a little bit if they go that route. And you're right. If you fish the opens for 4 or 5 years, but there's dudes one off that make it, and then they don't know. They're like, oh crap.
Yeah. So
You mean I have to come up with this 40,000?
I mean, that's the problem with a one-off winning the lottery.
yeah,
I mean,
you better get an accountant.
I just feel like the organizations could do a better job of supporting those that are coming to them before they actually get there and letting them know the reality of things.
If they're not going to do it, that's fine. That's what we're here for. Right.
Oh,
You got a lot of outdoor podcasts out there, and they all have something to offer.
And there's been a lot
You know.
of people talking about this over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Actually, I want to transition into the business aspect for Bassmaster for this, because I think it's a very smart move.
Yeah.
I agree.
And some of this was down to some of the back of the napkin math I did, because there was, initially there were some complaints like, oh, you still got to pay all this money, etc. There's still I guess the accusation of money grabs and all, but also during the last 2 years, how many times have we heard anglers, from the professional level, even all the way down, to how expensive this sport is and how dollars are drying up, how sponsorships dollars are drying up because of the way the industry have changed. And we've talked about in the past, right? Companies put their ad dollars towards more efficient ways to generate revenue. There's more people trying to get a piece of the pie with the economy and all, and then some of the bad decisions some of these major endemic companies did over the last few years. There's just not very much there. And so we've heard that over and over and over again. And this, I think, can potentially lead to the fact that Bassmaster is going to be able to do some things, because the other complaint is entry fees keep going up, but payouts don't, and payouts don't go down that much farther. So the back of the napkin math, Bassmaster should be able to generate between an additional $0.5 to $1.5 million.
That's off the assumption they're not going to change payouts, because they're not going to change payouts.
This is revenue generation. Okay. I'm talking they should bring in an additional $500,000 to $1.5 million in revenue. And that's based upon the entry fees for the open events are the same, $2,000. There's also co-anglers. There's 8 events of those total, whereas there was 9, the last 2 years. So that's like assuming a 250 boat field, full field, and Bassmaster has all these numbers, right, to the T, how many people compete, but back of the napkin, you can only make assumptions. So 250 boat field, next year for the 8 events would be about $4 million in revenue. This year was $4.5 million. I'm not accounting for the co-anglers because there's so much fluctuation, how many co-anglers. So you will lose some additional revenue by having one less co-angler event. But then if you have 102 minimum for the EQ series, so that's 100 that qualify plus the 2 nation guys, that's $350,000 per event. So another $1 million.
Yep.
So that's now you're in $5 million in revenue. That doesn't include, and this is where it comes to the elite anglers jumping in. Theoretically, they could all do it based upon the announcement, and that would total, would be another $1 million. Whereas if only like 50 did it, those who didn't qualify the classic, could be another $500,000. So that's the revenue. I'd probably make a lot more in revenue. Now, what they choose to do with that, is that more live coverage, which does help the anglers out, especially in the events? Are they going to lower entry fees? Probably not. Are they going
It's going to go right into somebody's pocket, and it's not going to be the anglers.
Who knows, right?
I'm just going to be on it. Like, they're not going to increase payouts because people are going to they haven't increased payouts in 20 years, and people keep signing up for these tournaments.
That's the problem.
So the problem is anglers complain about payouts, but they won't take a year off.
No, you're right.
To prove a point and say, I'm not going to give you my money until you give me more of it back.
You're right. And
they're like, hey, we can increase and still pay him $20,000 like we were in 1972.
Good business.
And they're
decision.
like, Yep, I'll give you another 1,500 to not pay me anymore. I hate it, but I'm gonna do it.
Yeah.
Like and that's the maybe we do need to put the Gambler Anonymous. Every tournament I go to, I'm just gonna put a big sticker on the side of something.
And what is unknown with this on like Bassmaster's business model is we don't know what their sponsorship deals are. We don't know how that has changed over the years. Again, going back to
but you're just solely based off of angler participation
in
the opens and EQs.
If sponsorship dollars are really drying up, right, or there is been a decrease and then doing more, like some of this may just be to keep the organization afloat.
That's right.
So and that is, and I know what we know.
And I don't want to be Debbie Down. Like I hope they increase payouts, even if it's not overall like prize money. If they just go, I mean, even if it's not like the winner gets more, if they just pay down more spots, that would be great.
Like last year,
I just don't think it's going to happen because people are still going to pay them whether they get paid or not.
And this year in the EQs, they did increase them, and they have the AOI now. And so I don't know what's going to happen now. Is there still going to? There's not going to be an AOI in the opens next year. I don't think.
I probably have one in each division. Just
so
it'll do something like
So
I mean that's still something in every organization that's there. So I'm sure they'll have an opens,
but whether or not they
like a northern division AOI. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe the payment will be like a free entry in one of the EQ derbies or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm sure they'll do something. Bass is usually pretty good about recognizing folks that achieve that kind of thing. But you know, and like I said, I hate to be I don't want to be Debbie Downer. I know that sounds super negative. I just don't have a lot of faith that Bass is going to do the right thing and put some of that money back to the anglers because history shows they're not going to do it.
Yeah.
Like I don't know what they're going to spend the money on. Maybe they'll buy a bigger stage for Mercer to walk across. I don't know. Like I don't know, but they have not invested that money.
I bet some of it will go towards. I'm going to guess that there's going to be live coverage for all the EQ events.
I would assume so.
I mean, that would come down to whatever FS1 in the deal because the only live coverage you have is whatever Fox Sports puts on, and then the couple hours during the day that they do on Bass on the website.
Yeah,
I don't know. Bass does all 8 hours.
They split it between what FS1 provides the money for. If FS1 doesn't give them any money for the EQs, they're not going to put any money into putting those on live. There was no live coverage of the opens until this year when FS1 said we want to do the final day. There was never a minute of live coverage the last 10 years.
But there was a big push from anglers asking for that.
You can ask for it till you're blue in the face. Bass wasn't going to spend their money solely to do it. And I don't have faith that they would do it just because it's the EQ. So unless FS1 hears this and is like, yeah, we want to have your EQ event.
Which I just came out with a deal with Fox.
Yeah. But it was only for the Elite Series and the Classic. So they haven't announced anything. Maybe behind closed doors, they told them what we're going to do with the opens and the EQs, and there's some negotiations there. I'm with you. I hope there's live coverage, but I don't think Bass is going to take that extra $500,000 they make and they're going to put it back into the anglers having live coverage. I don't see it happening. If
they don't increase payouts or they don't increase live coverage, you know, people that aren't talked about a lot in Bass well, I guess they don't really need it in BPT, but there's a lot of people that work for Bass
staff,
right? Maybe those guys get a raise.
They pay their marshals in BPT, so they probably don't pay them anything. But they get paid.
I'm just saying, like, you know, times are tough for everybody, not just the anglers. And so maybe you look at that and say, hey, we need people to operate the release boats and sit out there and, you know, do whatever it is. I mean, there's a lot of other people involved in the Bass.
And I hope you're right, Ben.
They're content guys.
Yeah, their content, all that stuff, you know.
And I hope you're right, Ben. Like, I hope they put that money into the coverage that helps the anglers, but I don't see it happening.
Yeah.
Unless there's some type of benefit to their current sponsorship deals of them doing that. I don't think they're going to take $500,000 and just throw it away into internet live coverage. And not that it's throwing away because it's great for us and it is great for the angler exposure, but history says they're not going to do that. I just don't see the tune changing. And I'm going to again be critical of Bass, and I have been. They need a leadership change in that organization badly. Like they have dudes that have been there forever that just keep doing the same thing. And I'm not saying they need a bunch of changes, but they need to make some smart business decisions that support their customer, which is the angler. Can
I change avenues here and talk about a business decision that we haven't really covered? So we haven't really talked about it. We don't have to go into great detail, but you talked about sponsorship dollars and, you know, we talk about change and stuff like that. Have you guys caught any of the Major League Fishing team tournament trails that they got going on right now?
Nope.
So I don't know all the deets, but I did catch one of the tournaments, and essentially, it's a team tournament format with BPT anglers that are non-endemic sponsored tournaments, right? Like Smoky Mountain snuff pouches or whatever, right? Like, I don't know. I just threw out something. But it's all non-endemic driven, right? So these anglers show up. It's basically like how it used to be with the cup or with the cup events, right? They show up, they fish out of a Major League Fishing owned boat. They're paid to show up. They fish every time they advance throughout that tournament. It's almost like a bracket style deal. And I thought it was really cool. I watched one of the tournaments. It was like Alton Jones and his dad fishing out of the same exact boat against like 3 other teams. So they don't get a huge turnout in it. But I thought it was a really cool business decision from the MLF side of the house to do something like that, where we always talk about like, man, it would be really nice if, these anglers were paid to show up and fish.
So they've been doing that for about 4 years. Well, since they started in 2019.
The team format's unique format. I mean, I think we all like, I haven't watched a lot of the coverage this year, but we've seen them in the past and all. But remember, there was no live coverage day 1 and day 2.
That was why they did the live coverage of the team event. They pulled 1 and 2 to give to the team events,
which means they had to pull resources from one thing because they didn't have it for another.
Right.
So I think they did the team event the first time they did it was 2020, and they've done it every year since then. Yeah, but it was always like a cup event. They just put it out on YouTube. This was the first year they did the live coverage of it, which was definitely
honestly
cool.
I prefer that type of content better.
I think it's great.
The cup events or like each day on the water is just like an hour and a half long episode. It cuts out all the.
I feel like they probably will not have live coverage of the team tournament next year. I think they got enough.
It's unfortunate too. You talked about it a long time ago about putting earpieces in, right? So last year they ran it like that. Where it was individual anglers on a team in their own in boats, and they had the headsets and they could strategize and like hit things.
They still did that this year.
I don't know if they did that.
It's a team challenge. There's a team challenge and there's a team. There's 2 different things.
Their stuff is like
they've got like so much
counterinsurgency strategy in Afghanistan. Like
it's like this.
Yeah, it's all over the place. But I will say, like, we've talked about it before. I heard this talked about, I think, on Duncan's podcast, and he actually had Alton Jones Jr. on. But man, like that is legit grassroots, like tournament fishing, right? Like the team stuff. And it didn't get a lot of coverage this year. And it's something that really wasn't talked about. But man, I'll tell you what, like that to me, from a viewer, from a consumer perspective, man, that was awesome to see. I didn't catch it all, but you got non-endemic sponsors that are paying for that marketing and advertising space. Anglers are paid to show up and go grind it out and fish over a multi-day period in a team tournament format. Man, that was a really cool business decision. Yeah. So hopefully
I knew it was going on. I gave absolutely 0 minutes to them because I refuse to support that organization at that level.
There's a lot of anglers over there that are victims of business decisions. So that's not their fault.
I know it's not, but I don't support the league because
they left.
Well,
most of them did leave.
Yeah.
The ones that didn't leave can't because they ran their mouths so bad they have nowhere else to go.
Well, that's true. Well, you did.
That was their decision.
Hey, you dig your own grave, man.
That's right.
That's the way it is.
No, I knew it was going on. They really talked about it a lot at the beginning of the year. And then after they got absolutely hammered for not having days 1 and 2 of their normal BPT events, they stopped talking about it because I think they realized like they're just going to keep throwing it back.
And I only saw a few things come across my feed.
I watched like some of the highlight stuff, like the one with Jacob Wheeler and Connell when he hooked himself. That was a good one.
Yeah, that was a really good. Oh yeah, that's right. But I mean, the narrative of this episode is change, right? Changes.
The only thing that remains constant is
change. That's right. So I think, to kind of summarize, I think BASS is making a good business decision. I think it's going to have positive and negative effects, just like every single decision. I think what MLF did was a good decision for the team format stuff. Hopefully that gets some inertia and keeps going. We'll see.
Yeah.
The MPFL is chugging along, man. They made some awesome decisions. I think so. Business decision.
Set themselves apart. Yeah.
Yeah, man. So change is happening, dude. We're still rolling. We got hopefully no changes, but if we have changes,
when it
we'll
comes
adapt to change.
one last, I guess on
We got new
change.
stickers coming. That's changing.
That's true. But change in the industry. Is it just me, or maybe I just haven't looked as much because it made me mad? Has some of the vitriol gone down now that one organization has chosen to ban it, forward facing, and one has and one halfway? Like, like people now have choices. I haven't seen quite nearly as much hatred in a way, haters as maybe like 6 weeks ago.
Man, you know what? I think you bring up a good point. I mean, I haven't spent a whole lot of time perusing, but I haven't seen a whole lot come across my social media platforms and stuff. I mean, from a consumer and a angler, if you're trying to get into it, like now there's a variety of, I mean, you're not going to necessarily get into all of it, but I mean, like it's an opportunity now that's created for you to chase whatever format or watch whatever you prefer, and I've said it on here a million times, and I've heard other people on other podcasts say it too. Watching fishing is boring for me. I'd rather be fishing, but if it's a rainy day or whatever, and I want to see what's going on, it's an opportunity to learn. Now you have a variety of stuff out there, right? So they just diversified the playing field, man. I think it's great that there's change.
I think the haters just actually went outside and touched grass for once, so they don't have anything better to do. No, I mean, yeah, some of the rhetoric has calmed down. I think as organizations have defended their positions, it's been talked about more. Like now the initial emotional reactions everybody had are out of the way, and they've looked at it, more. They've taken a better look at things and why decisions were made, and I think some of them probably regret some of the things that were said, but maybe they don't. I don't really care.
I think we talked about it before. This is a sport / activity that if you're not willing to hedge your bets all on yourself, then maybe this isn't for you. I know that for me personally and professionally, there's no way I would make a decision to dump money unless somebody was truly paying for me to do this and market and advertise. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to put my family in that position. If you do that, that's on you. You know what I mean? So if taking scope or team format or whatever change a business makes that affects your ability to bet on yourself for the better or worse, that's on you. That's just my opinion on it, though. Guys, what do we got?
Yeah, I mean, if you're struggling with the gambling addiction, you call Wayne. No, I'm just kidding. No, I mean it is gambling. There's been a lot said, and a lot of what we said tonight are our initial emotional reactions. Like we'll take some time to kind of take this all in. I've tried to look at it without emotion, and that's sort of why I took the stance that I like it from every angle for bass. I may sit back and realize that I'm more in line with Trey. I don't know. I feel like it's good for everybody. I hope Bass makes the right decision with the extra money they're going to make. And I hope they do a little bit more to support those folks that are trying to make it. We're going to keep doing what we do. We're not going to change anything yet until we get canceled or somebody tells us we have to, or whatever. Well, I mean, yes, we are changing a little bit. We're going to start focusing a lot more on outdoor healing and how it's helped people, and trying to get everybody more real stories on that, because that seems to be received well in the community. We want, if you're still here listening, like we need feedback. Like Chelsea asked me the other night, like, what have people been saying? We don't get a lot of feedback except for people that know us, which I think is which is good because of the community we garnered. Like we've tried to stay positive, but at the same time, like we don't want it to be so positive. Like if we're doing some stuff y'all don't like, let us know. We need to try to get better, and we're ready for that constructive criticism. Just don't be a keyboard warrior.
It'll be criticism, and then how it's interpreted is either constructive or not.
Yeah, we will take it constructive. Well, Ben might not. Trey and I. No. Ben will,
it's worthwhile.
I mean, you bring up a good point. If you're still listening or watching, do us a favor. Share this stuff with your friends. Leave a review if you haven't. It takes 5 seconds. It doesn't have to be 5 stars. It can be 1 star if that's what your heart desires. But leave us a review, because that does what everybody else says, stroke the algorithm, which I have no idea what that means, but apparently it does that. leave a review and let us know what you think. We need your feedback. Leave us comments, all that stuff. Share it with your friends. You know, the section that you put your podcast under doesn't just say fishing. It says outdoors, doesn't it?
Wilderness.
If I'm not wilderness, right? And we got some ideas of bringing some future guests on here that we'll get into later.
A couple of them have nothing to do with fishing.
They have not a thing to do with fishing, but they definitely have to do with the wilderness.
They definitely have stories that will inspire.
I mean, I just talked to a guy that's on his way to, Kazakhstan right now, right? There's a lot of outdoors outside the United States.
Yeah.
He's not Kazaki or whatever. He's not from Kazakhstan. He's an American, but still, man, like we want to get some people on here that have some interesting stories. It's not all about fishing. It's all about the outdoors and things that we all enjoy to do. So, all enjoy doing. So anyways, that's all I got, gentlemen. You got anything else?
No.
Appreciate all of you guys.
Don't forget about that giveaway I talked about at the beginning of the episode.
Go back to the beginning.
Post.
Find that post that Pete's
First one to say what the name of that store is, we're going to give you a free oil change.
That's right. Free 99. Appreciate you guys being with us as we go along this journey. We've been doing it for a while now. We're going to keep doing it. We're going to keep bringing you guys great content and engagement on Fishing Friday Lives. And that is all about building a culture of anglers helping anglers, one cast at a time.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Oh, God, it's a toad, son. It's a toad, dude.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day.